Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on ACPS TV and streamed on ACPS YouTube channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the sign by the doorway as you enter the room, so please make sure you read those if you have not already. Before we move on, I want to mention quickly that one of our members could not be here tonight due to an unavoidable work conflict. Due to the fact that there are some particularly significant issues on tonight's agenda, we have made arrangements for that member to join us virtually when they can. We will notify the public when the member has joined. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. So at this time, I will move on to ask everyone to pause for the invocation. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That brings us to item 2.03, approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have consensus? Thank you. Item 2.04, establish agenda order. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adopt the agenda as published.
Second.
Thank you. No, we have consensus. Thank you. Okay. This brings us to item 2.05, the Student Equity in Action Spotlight. The Board of Education, in collaboration with the Board Equity Committee and the AACPS Student Equity Advisory Teams, or SEAT, are proud to introduce a new monthly student recognition, Student Equity in Action Spotlight. The Student Equity in Action Spotlight highlights students or student groups for their efforts in identifying and working to eliminate inequities in their school and home communities. Students or student groups of all grade levels and from across Anne Arundel County Public Schools who are nominated must demonstrate specific examples of equitable resources, equitable environments, equitable education opportunities, and personal learning and education. Nomination forms can be found on the AACPS website under Board Recognitions or by visiting www.aacps.org/recognitions. Tonight is special as we prepare to recognize the first recipient of the Student Equity in Action Spotlight. Mr. Lynn, I will turn it over to you as Chair of the Board of Education Equity Committee.
Thank you. The Board of Education is honored to recognize the first recipient of the Student Equity in Action Spotlight, Akil Leggett Jr. from Annapolis High School. Okay, never mind. Just kidding. Okay. Akil has participated in various organizations throughout Anne Arundel County. Through his engagement, he has offered leadership, insight, and a perspective that represents students within his demographic and beyond. It is through this engagement that he challenges organizations to consider equitable practices for students. For example, Akil was a student panelist for the 2023 Summer Equity Symposium, where he shared his insights on his experiences as a Black male student in Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Akil serves as the president of the Black Student Union and of the class of 2024 at Annapolis High School. Through his leadership, he has worked to facilitate various initiatives to support students in need. He has promoted participation in school-wide food drives, monthly food distributions, and fundraising to support organizational needs. Additionally, Akil was the catalyst for the Uplift IB committee to increase diversity and inclusion in the International Baccalaureate program. The committee has and is working on support for all IB students to help them with the rigorous program. Akil and the committee created a presentation for middle school students to help them not only have a better understanding of the IB program, but also recognize people who look like them in the program. Currently, Akil is working to bring the Annapolis community together to address issues of violence both in the school and in the community. He is collaborating with students, staff, and community leaders to refurbish an outdoor space in memory of students and families who are victims of gun violence. But that's not all. Akil has been involved with the 1619 project with the Banneker Douglas Museum, Chanel Compton, and Blacks of the Chesapeake Foundation. Specifically, Akil edited research done by Vincent Leggett on Black watermen in the marine and seafood processing industries and created a product that better fit the youth of the Chesapeake Bay region. He also assisted with a new program to encourage Black girls to participate in Black Girls Dive Foundation, which establishes space and opportunity to empower young ladies to explore their STEM identity through marine science, conservation, and scuba diving. Just last week, Akil and fellow Annapolis High School students participated with Maryland Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller and Maryland's Teacher of the Year, Mary Kay Connerton, to engage in one of the trauma-informed wellness groups that are offered under the Wellness Enrichment Pillar of the AACPS Wellness Program. This group specifically centers around stress management as a response to anxiety. Akil Leggett Jr., you are an outstanding student, and we are proud to recognize you as the November 2023 Student Equity in Action Spotlight. Congratulations. Would you please come forward to accept this recognition?
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Here, ask him who's with them. Yeah.
Okay.
So, before we take pictures, who's with you?
My entire immediate mom, dad, sister's friend, both sets of grandparents, an additional great grandmother who's a neighbor of my grandparents, my counselor, and my beloved Black Student Union advisor, Ms. McNeil, and my IB counselor, Ms. Richburg.
And would you like to say anything?
Thank you for the award. I'm greatly appreciative. And I'm just glad that, Annapolis High School is in good light this evening. Because most of the time, unfortunately, we do have a bad light on Annapolis High. But this is just, a public service announcement that Annapolis High students are doing good for the community and for Anne Arundel County Public School System. And this is just the beginning for us as I see us moving forward with our Peace Garden, hopefully to get support from you all here today and the greater community to make sure those efforts are a success. And it starts with you all. And the students and partnerships, and with that, we can move forward with peaceful conversations, because in this world, it's very unpeaceful, as we see with the Annapolis High community and within the ACPS. And hopefully we can start making it better with peaceful conversations. So I'm just greatly appreciative.
Congratulations to your family. congratulations to your A-High family. And thank you for what you're doing. You are making a huge difference, and we're so proud of you.
Thank you, Dr. Caitlin.
And we're going to make you hold two things
Okay.
at once here and take some pictures. Okay. And I think if I've got the agenda right, we can take a quick break. Do we take a quick break here to take pictures out front?
If you would like to, we
I think
can.
this is a good place to take. So we've got a setup for pictures out front. All the family can get in. I think Dr. Bedell, Mr. Lynn, and I can come out. We can take a quick 5-minute break while we do that. Okay? So come on.
Maybe they did that.
I don't know, but it's not possible.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. So this takes us to section 3, public comments on agenda items. We have no public comments on agenda items this evening. So that will move us on to section 4, reports. Item 4.01. Okay. If it's, yeah, she must have just stepped out. There's a lot of fun going on out front. Okay, we'll try that again. Item 4.01, the CRASC report. Ms. Fidel.
Good evening. Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Michelle Fidel. I am a sophomore at Chesapeake High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm very grateful to serve as the CRASC Secretary of Education. High school voter registration began earlier this month, and there have been over 70 students registered and another 58 applications taken home to be completed. There are 5 more high schools left, so if your school is up on the slide, be on the lookout. More information can be found at www.aacps.org/voterdrive. On November 19th, in partnership with SEAT, Student Equity Advisory Team, and SSL, Student Service Leadership Team, CRASC hosted its first General Assembly of the school year at South River High School, which was a huge success. We had over 200 attendees at the GA. Middle and high school students from across AACPS participated in workshops on topics such as social advocacy, drafting testimony, service learning, composting, and many more. A big thank you to our wonderful presenters, South River High School SGA, attendees, our keynote speaker, Dr. Lamar Shields. On Saturday, November 18th, MASC is hosting its Fall Leadership Conference at Seneca Valley High School. Delegates will attend workshops and get the opportunity to network with other students from across the state. We will have 8 workshop presenters and over 30 delegates in attendance from our county. We are looking forward to the event. Make sure to watch Teen Talk's latest episode about preparing for college. The November episode of Teen Talk focuses on providing insight and meaningful advice about various pathways for success featuring members of classes of 2023 and 2024. The month of November is a season of gratitude. We are grateful for many things here in AACPS, from our bus drivers, crossing guards, teachers, staff, our educational opportunities, and so much more. But we are most thankful to be part of a great county, one of the best counties, Anne Arundel. And that's something to be grateful for just right there, people. Now, if any student wants to find out more about CRASC, make sure to check the calendar on the CRASC website for a list of upcoming meetings and leadership events. Thank you all and hope you all enjoy your Thanksgiving break and eat well. Yes.
Thank you, as always, Ms. Fidel. All right, that takes us to item 4.02, PTA report.
Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, board members, and Dr. Bedell and guests. My name is Christine Crandall, President of the Anne Arundel County Council of PTAs. The next AACP PTA monthly meeting will be held virtually on Monday, January 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And we look forward to seeing all of our local leaders to ensure that you are receiving important AACP TA messages, meeting registration, and training information. Please send us your local PTA unit officers' contact information at info@aaccpta.org or contact us on Facebook. Please also reach out to us if you're in need of assistance with compliance issues. IRS tax filings are due November 15th, and charitable registrations due December 31st. We will be scheduling President and Treasurer training the second week of December, so please look out for important information regarding that training. Recently, Brockbridge Elementary School PTA, in collaboration with the National PTA, hosted a fire safety event with Kitty as the sponsor on October 27th. We had 250 Brockbridge family members attend the event. The purpose of the event was for families to understand the importance of fire safety, effective smoke detectors, and create an exit plan if a fire occurs in their home. As our families arrived at the event, they were greeted with an Anne Arundel County fire truck, ladder truck, emergency medical vehicle. The Anne Arundel County fire personnel interacted with our families and shared their excitement. AACC PTA is excited to have several schools participating in Reflections this year. If your local PTA has not registered to participate, it is not too late. The deadline for student entry submissions is December 22nd, 2023. Please contact the AACC PTA Reflections Committee at reflections@aaccpta.org for questions or assistance with participation in this year's program. We are currently looking for judges to sit on the judging panel the week of January 8th through the 12th, 2024. If you are interested in serving as a judge, please email reflections@aaccpta.org. Winners of the Reflections program will be announced February 1st, and AACC PTA will hold a Reflections Award ceremony at the AACPS Board of Education on the evening of March 20th, 2024. The student artwork will also be displayed in an exhibit in the lobby of the Board of Education from March 4th through April 12th, 2024. As always, we encourage and challenge each board member to join at least one PTA this school year, and may even attend a PTA meeting to hear firsthand the issues in the community. Thank you again for allowing us time to speak this evening.
Thank you so much. And as a proud, longstanding member of the Annapolis High PTA, thank you. So that brings us to item 4.03, the CAC report.
Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Erica McFarland, and as Vice Chair of the Citizens Advisory Committee, I'm providing you with this evening's update. The CAC met this past Monday, November 13th. We're very grateful to have Grace Wilson join us, the Legislative Policy Specialist, and she presented us with information about policy and regulation, walking us through the process and how it relates to the work of the CAC, which was very helpful to us. We look forward to working to gather feedback from the community and provide input on several policies that are going to be considered this year. At this meeting, we focused on 3 policy areas: student attire and personal appearance, educational equity, and eligible riders. 2 of these committees, student attire and personal appearance and eligible riders, are formulating plans to solicit feedback from the community this month. We are excited to engage with the community and invite anyone to attend our monthly meeting. Please email our secretary, Jamie Herman Kuné, for a link to attend. Our next meeting will be held virtually on Monday, December 11th at 6:45 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you as always to the members of the CAC for all the work that you do. It's tremendously helpful to us here on the board. All right, that brings us to item 4.05, the President's Report. So as was mentioned a little bit earlier in the discussion of our spotlight on student equity, on Tuesday, November 7th, we were honored to have the Lieutenant Governor, Runa Miller, visit Annapolis High to attend a wellness class conducted by Mary Kay Connerton, an Annapolis High teacher, the Anne Arundel County Teacher of the Year, and the Maryland State Teacher of the Year. It was followed by a student roundtable that the Lieutenant Governor attended, and I think it was tremendously impressive what the students had to say. And Ms. Schalheim and I were able to attend, and we're very grateful for the attention that we are getting for the incredible work that's being done by Ms. Connerton and the wellness program. In addition, so that was, yes, that that was the day that we were all at. That's Ms. Schalheim and I in our workout gear ready for a yoga class, which was very wonderful. So then last night we had the Partners in Education celebration up at the live spot. And you see here our 3 well, we had a group of impressive nominees, but we had 3 that were awarded the annual awards for the, I believe it's under 50 employees, the Russell Fabrication Organization, for the larger business, Chick-fil-A of Annapolis, for the work that Glen Burnie and Watch Apple for the work that they've done. And also for our nonprofits, the Walk the Walk Foundation, which has done incredible work with Tyler Heights Elementary, providing diapers for their pantry there. And we are very, very grateful for all our partners. It is tremendously important to the work we do. And we couldn't do a lot of the things we do if we didn't have all these businesses and nonprofits that step up to work with our schools and with our students. So we were very grateful to have them all there. And congratulations to all the honorees and all the winners. And that concludes the President's Report for tonight. So that brings us to item 4.06, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, President Tobin. I want to start with a congratulations to our athletic teams that either have won state championships or are still competing for them. Our schools have captured 5 state titles so far. As you can see on the screen, we also have one student, Eric Pincala of Southern High School, who has won the state cross-country meet. 6 of our schools remain alive in the playoffs in football, soccer, and volleyball, of which they will compete this weekend. Good luck to all of them, and hopefully I can get out and support 1 or 2 of those teams this weekend. Next, congratulations to the 4 finalists for the George Arlotto Award. This is the Leadership Award, which goes annually to our Principal of the Year. Heather Garris of Tracy's Elementary, Deneen Houghton of Oak Hill Elementary, Bonnie Myers of Bodkin Elementary, and Joe Rose of Cat North. All of these leaders are doing an outstanding job on their respective campuses. The winner will be announced later this school year. Thanks to them and to all of our principals for the work they do on a daily basis. While we're congratulating people, let me offer a huge congratulations to United States Naval Academy Midshipman First Class Abigail Ward of Pasadena on earning one of 32 Rhodes Scholarships earned by Americans. Abigail is a 2020 graduate of Northeast High School who also attended Old Mill Middle School South's STEM program. She is majoring in computer science and minoring in Chinese and will graduate from the Naval Academy in the spring. Yeah, I think we need to give her, yeah, that's amazing. On another note, we continue to hold steady when it comes to our vacancies. As you can see, every week, generally on a Wednesday, we will continue to pump out this report so people within the community can see where the school district is from a staffing standpoint and where they can help us. So we continue to ask for support from our community to urge people to apply for vacancies that you see on this list and the many other vacancies that we have here in Anne Arundel County. So just wanted to let you all know we're holding steady, and I'm pretty pleased with where we are as we continue to staff this school district. I had the opportunity this morning to speak in Pentagon City to community college presidents from around the country on the collaborative work we are doing with Anne Arundel Community College. It also allowed for us to share with these community college presidents, the work that we're doing here in Anne Arundel County as we think about our strategic planning process, how we plan to embrace Blueprint, and what we believe will allow for us to become a very innovative school district. To say that people weren't impressed wouldn't be fair because a number of them gave their business cards. They are interested in wanting to learn more about some of the future things that we want to do in conjunction with our community college, which is #1 rated in the country. And so there's a lot to be proud of right now. And I just, we'll continue to go out, represent this school district at a high level when we go out to these conferences or when we're asked to speak on behalf of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. And today was just another example of that. So we wanted to make sure that folks knew what was going on in that space. As we go back to this whole strategic plan piece, our next meeting of the Strategic Plan Steering Committee will take place next week. Our goal is to bring a plan to the board in April or May of this year. Because of some issues that have occurred in our schools recently, I think it's important to focus for a minute on one part of that plan: the student academic, social, and emotional growth. This is an area where everyone in our community needs to play a part. You can't just throw your hands up and say, let the school system do it alone. As I've always said, schools can't do it alone. We know that in order for our kids to reach their fullest academic potentials, the social and emotional aspect has to be a community effort. And I look forward to continuously having conversations with our community. We will work with our elected officials, the folks who are on our steering committee that's a part of the various communities, to make sure that we continue to have a focus on the social and emotional well-being, not just of our students, but also of the adults that are charged with working with our students. So as I close out, I want to end on a very positive note. There are times in our jobs when you wonder about the impact you are having. Monday was World Kindness Day, and Maisie Barber, a student at Windsor Farm Elementary School, who was one of the winners of the Mo Gabba Award for Positivity and Perseverance, spread kindness through the whole school. Take a look at this video the school produced for its school announcements.
Hi, my name is Maisie Barwood. Last year, I won the Mo Gabba Award for Positivity and Perseverance. As a winner, I was given $500 to spend on a kindness initiative for our school.
Today is World Kindness Day, so Maisie has chosen to give all the students at Windsor Farm a reminder of how to be kind. Today, on World Kindness Day, you will receive a bracelet that says, "Kindness Matters."
We hope you will pledge to be kind every day. There is also a banner in our cafeteria hallway that says, "Be the I in kind."
We hope all our Windsor Farm students and families will use Maisie's gifts to us as a reminder to practice kindness each and every day.
Have a nice World Kindness Day.
That's awesome. And as you all can see, we can learn a lot from our students. It's just plain and simple. President Tobin, that concludes my report.
Thank you. And thank you for that video. That was absolutely wonderful. Okay, that brings us to Section 5, presentations. Item 5.01, 2024-2025 school year calendar.
All right. Thank you, President Tobin. We will have Bob Mosier, who leads the calendar committee, to talk to you all about the details of the calendar and where we're heading. This does not require the board at this time to take action. Pass it back over to you, Mr. Mosier.
So thank you. Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, Dr. Bedell. I'm Bob Mosier, Chief Communications Officer for the school system, here to present item 5.01, 2024-25 school year calendar as recommended by the calendar committee. As Dr. Bedell indicated, this is an information item for you this evening, and so no board vote is required. This is not right. Next slide. Board approved policy IB sets out the process we're discussing this evening. It calls for the committee, whose members I will detail in a moment, to submit a recommended calendar to the board for consideration. Ultimately, the final decision on the calendar is that of this Board of Education. The committee consists of 24 members whose roles include bargaining unit representatives, parents, students, and staff members from key areas across our school system. We met on the evening of Wednesday, October 25th, and the committee reached consensus on the calendar before you tonight. The calendar recommended by the committee adapts the holidays, closings, and other key dates from this year's calendar to the 2024-25 school year. There are no major changes in the recommended calendar. The calendar has the same alignment as that found in this year's calendar, with classes for students beginning on the last Monday in August and ending on the second Friday in June. The calendar does contain the traditional 3-day Thanksgiving break, an 8-day Christmas winter break, and a week-long Easter spring break. It also calls for schools to be closed on Rosh Hashanah on October 3rd, 2024. In the 2024-25 school year, both Yom Kippur and Eid al-Fitr fall on weekends, so there is no need to close the school system on those days. The recommended calendar also maintains the November 1 closing date for elementary and middle school students, with staff at those levels engaging in professional development on this day. As was the case this year, this date follows Halloween, so our smallest trick-or-treaters can sleep off the effects of the candy they received the night before. In all seriousness, the day does provide time for critical professional development for school-based staff. The recommended calendar also maintains the 12 early dismissal days and 2 parent-teacher conference days that you see here. There are also 3 built-in inclement weather days, the minimum required by state law. There has been discussion in past years about a post-Labor Day start, so we did discuss this briefly in the committee. Moving the first day of classes to the day after Labor Day moves the last day of classes back 10 calendar days to June 23rd. It also creates a situation where the last 2 days of the school year, both early dismissal days, follow the Juneteenth holiday on which the school system would be closed. There was no support for this model on the committee. Finally, I want to ensure the board and the public are aware of a change in state law adopted last year by the General Assembly that impacts potential virtual instruction days next year. As a result of the change, school systems must use all of their built-in inclement weather days before utilizing a virtual instruction day for inclement weather. The change does not impact the current year, but going forward, it does eliminate the possibility to use virtual instruction days on inclement weather days to create a longer summer. Unused inclement weather days would still be subtracted from the end of the school year, as has been our practice. We'll put this calendar out for public comment tomorrow and make sure that you receive those comments prior to your next meeting at which you're scheduled to discuss and adopt the calendar. With that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Thank you again for leading this, and thank you to the members of the committee for all their work. I see no lights, so I think we are without questions this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to section 6, consent items, award of contracts.
Can we bundle those? Move to bundle?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All right. Do we have consensus to bundle? Okay. Dr. Bedell.
All right, Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts under the consent items dotted numbered 6.01 through 6.03.
Thank you.
So moved.
Okay, Ms. Corkadell?
Yeah, I did have a question for the staff probably relating to the HVAC system. Is there someone around or? Sorry.
I think I see Mr. Roof.
Yes. Hi. So this is not an indicator of my support of obviously for the contract, but I am very curious. Northeast is not a very old renovation, and many HVAC systems go on 10, 15, 20 years before needing major renovation.
Yeah.
And so, and it's using newer technology, not like one of ours in the 80s or 70s or something. So I am curious as to what is triggering it. Is it because we're respacing things, or is it just not lasting as long as we had hoped?
It's really a comfort issue inside the school. So we've received several complaints about comfort levels within both the administrative unit and other portions of the building. We hired an engineer last year to do a feasibility study on different areas and different focus points for us to look at as far as minor modifications to the existing system. It isn't a replacement of the system in the school, but rather modifications to that system to get it to perform a little bit better for us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No further questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roof. Seeing no more lights, Ms. Howell.
Ms. Ellis?
Aye.
Ms. Corkadell?
Aye.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Mr. Lynn?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Moving to section 7, item 7.01, administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the personnel listed on the attached sheet be promoted and or appointed as discussed in executive closed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Seeing no lights, Ms. Howell.
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. Lynn,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
and Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That moves us to policy revisions on third reading. Item 7.02, School Activity Funds Management, Code DF.
Thank you. The superintendent recommends approval of policy DF, subject to final correction for style and format. For any questions, we have Grace Wilson at the podium.
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, President Tobin, Vice President Silkworth, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. I'm Grace Wilson, Legislative and Policy Specialist for the school system. As Dr. Bedell said, Policy DF, School Activity Funds Management, is before you this evening on third reading. This policy was last revised in December of 2011 and is being revised to remove the requirement that the board's internal audit staff audit the financial records of all schools every 24 months and for style and formatting. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Okay, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell.
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. Lynn,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That brings us to policy revisions first reading. Item 7.03, Classification of Fund Balances, Code DBK. Dr. Bedell.
All right, this is the first reading for this policy before being posted on the website for a 30-day public comment period. We have staff here prepared to take us through this first reading.
Again, Grace Wilson, Legislative and Policy Specialist, and I'm joined by my colleague.
Matt Stansky, Chief Financial Officer.
Policy DBK, Classification of Fund Balances, is before you this evening on first reading. The policy provides authority, guidance, and limitations for determining classification and limitation on the use of board fund balances. In addition to the board's policy committee review of this policy, the policy was reviewed by the board's budget committee in October. The policy is being revised to set a target fund balance of not less than 1% and with a goal of 5% of the annual operating expenditures for the fiscal year and for style and formatting. After tonight's board meeting, it'll be posted for a 30-day public comment period. And Mr. Scansey, would you like to add anything?
I think Ms. Wilson summarized it well. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis.
Thanks. I just want to thank you, Mr. Stansky, for your assistance on the development of policy here. I think it'll be great. I think it makes things a little more transparent. It feels that way when I read the language. So thank you.
Yep.
All right. Seeing no more lights, I think that concludes questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this brings us to item 7.04, New Village Academy Public Charter School Educational Specifications. Dr. Bedell.
All right. Madam President, the superintendent recommends approval of the New Village Academy Public Charter School educational specifications.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Okay, seeing no lights. Ms. Howell.
Miss Ellis,
Aye.
Miss Corkadell,
Aye.
Miss Schallheim,
Aye.
Miss Dent,
Aye.
Mr. Lynn,
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth,
Aye.
and Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. It's exciting to see those specs. Mhm. All right, this brings us to item 7.05, and let me notify the public that our member, Ms. Frank, is now on screen somewhere, so she can be with us for this discussion. All right, so this brings us to item 7.05, Superintendent's recommendation on Phase 1 North redistricting. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends approval of option 1 for final redistricting plan, Phase 1 to take effect in the 2024-2025 school year. Just a couple of things to note. When I started this job, August 8th of 2022, I had no idea that one of the undertakings that I had to engage in would be to come in and to focus on redistricting a district of this size. Originally, there was some requests that we look at doing it all at one time. And I remember pushing back on that, although while it may have been the right thing to do, the amount of stress that I felt it would put on this school system coming off of COVID, coming off of the school start times, and then just with my limited knowledge of this school system, I thought that that would be too much. And so we all agreed that we would do this in 2 phases. When we initially launched the work that we would do, I shared with this board and the community that I implore everybody to think about the greater good of the system. That redistricting is not fun, but it is a necessity. That there is no possible way that every single person is going to be happy coming out of redistricting. But we also know that you can look at redistricting from 2 different angles. One, you're having to redistrict because you're having to close schools, because you're declining in enrollment. 2, you're having to redistrict because you have grown to a point where schools at this point are over capacity. And when you have schools, and let me just say this, I would prefer that if we have to redistrict, we're doing it because we are over capacity, because we're growing. That's most importantly. But when you have schools that are over capacity, it makes it very difficult from a class size ratio, student to teacher. It makes it very difficult to manage the schools when you have that type of volume. It makes it very difficult for students that may want to be able to join clubs, may want to participate in athletics. When you have so many students, it shuts out opportunities for students who may not be able to compete or be a part of these clubs just off of the sheer volume that you have with students. We also know that course offerings are not finite. Once sections are filled, they're filled. And when you have the class sizes and you have the enrollment that we've experienced at some of our schools, that makes it virtually impossible for every kid to have the robust offerings that we think students deserve. So we made a decision and we said we would do our full due diligence. One of the things this school board asked of me as superintendent was that we wanted full-blown transparency. We want context. We want our community to not be surprised. So we created a redistricting online tool that offered full-blown transparency, where we received thousands and thousands of comments from people. Not only did we put that out where people could look at the map and see how that would impact them, when we received concerns throughout the process, we allowed for people to come and speak. We even went out into communities and we had conversations. All of that feedback ultimately helped us to shape where we are right now. Now, in order for us to truly do this the right way, knowing that we have another phase, we have to make sure that a decision is made tonight, one way or another. We also know that a delay in this process will be extremely harmful to our ability on the administrative side to implement what needs to be implemented, to conduct the transitions, because there's a transitional phase that has to take place. There's naming of schools that have to take place, signage that needs to be created, transportation needs to get to work, and anything delaying that will pretty much put us in a situation where there is no way possible that we will be able to implement this and do it the right way so that we can have as seamless of a transition that we need for the upcoming school year. Finally, while I understand that we've gotten some concerns about whether it's 11th graders and 12th graders, we did provide to this board on Friday all of the pros and cons of both options. And I will say to everybody that when you look at capacity of our schools, if that second option is the option that we go with, please understand that it will significantly delay what's going to happen in phase 2. There will be significant stress placed on these schools. And when people say we need to balance the system, I've heard that from this board. I've heard it from elected officials. When it's time to balance and we put out a recommendation to balance it, and then people are saying, well, we don't like that. There is no likable model. I think we've come as close as we could possibly come to a model that we think makes the most sense for the greater good of this school district. And so I implore everybody, as you decide on your decisions, to think about the greater good of where we're trying to go. And our goal is to not have schools continue to operate over capacity, because that's not healthy for our students. It's not healthy for the adults working within those schools. And honestly, it does not allow for us to truly show that we balance the system, because I can't go to the county executive and to the state and keep asking for money to do additions and to build new schools when we have these seats available, and we just have to make tough decisions to balance this system. I thank you all in advance for all of your input, your feedback as a board. You're pushing on the staff to make sure that we offered full transparency and that we do this the right way. And I believe that this phase 1 process is something that can be replicated all over. I felt like we did it the right way. I have no regrets. And whatever decision is made, as your superintendent, I am prepared to move forward with implementation. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. So we have a recommendation from the superintendent?
I did it already.
Yes.
You want me to do it again?
Yeah, go ahead and
I know,
remind
'cause
us.
that was a lot of talking. The superintendent recommends approval of option 1 for the final redistricting plan, phase 1, to take effect in the 2024-2025 school year.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and, well, we have a motion and a second, and now we're going to go around.
Point
Miss-
of order, normally we take any questions and then
Sure,
proceed
okay.
with motions. I mean, obviously it's on the table and has been seconded, but I think the motion normally drives after the questions have been completed. And I just want to make for the record that I think we need to follow, particularly in large decision-making, a process that is consistent for transparency and for trust of our folks.
In light of the request, would there be a willingness to withdraw the motion, have the questions, and come back to it? And withdraw the second? Okay, so I think we can do that. Of course. So what I will do is I will go around in roll call order and first ask if there are questions. Ms. Ellis, I'm sorry, Ms. Frank, you are actually first tonight, because, yeah, sorry. So, Ms. Frank, do you have questions?
Sorry, I'm going to just listen for the first round and hear if there are any motions. I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row in an airport, so I apologize.
Okay, all right. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. So redistricting is never easy. My first go around with it was really rough, but it's never easy. I am struggling with concern for our juniors if we were to go with option one. I currently have a student at home who is my fourth in 5 years applying to colleges, and I know how critical that junior year is. So I've been listening, I've been hearing the very well articulated concerns coming directly from our students. So, Dr. Bedell, I'm not sure where this conversation is going to go tonight. I'm not sure where the voting is going to go. But regardless of that, if it were to go to option one, the concerns, the biggest concerns I was hearing were the impact it would have on students who have been developing leadership roles in their schools, their participation in school activities. There are relationships that are established a lot of times in things, let's say like in performing arts, there's almost like the freshmen come in and they learn from the older kids, and then when casting as they move up in the years, a lot of times those big roles go to the kids who have been there. Sports teams, I know there's big concerns about tryouts and the kids who have a history in a school versus kids who are now coming in new. Heard one read one remark today concerned about letters of recommendation and students having those established relationships with teachers. And then, of course, one of the most important is the guidance that students are getting. And their counselors know them as they're preparing for college or whatever else is after. So I don't mean to be long-winded, but could you, if option one goes through, come back to the board with an update sometime in the not too distant future with how each of those concerns are going to be addressed? I mean, I'm thinking about being creative, perhaps having another coach involved when teams are being picked, so it doesn't feel like the homegrown kids have an advantage. Certainly the letters of recommendation, I would hope, there can be reach back and students can reach out to former teachers and school counselors. If we were to go with option two, some of those counselors would maintain a higher caseload. But if some of those students leave, perhaps those counselors can still be a liaison sort of with the new counselor who doesn't know the student as well. Because I know that school counselor letter has, I'm positive, led to some acceptances for some of my students. So these are the things that really give me heartache about supporting option one.
You raise good points, and we've had an opportunity to see a number of some of those concerns come across our email. One of the things we will do is be very transparent about the transitioning phase, and we can take all of that into account. Potentially, how do we make sure that we're working with respective schools as students are coming in, whether they want to join to be a part of a musical or plays or athletics. And so we'll work together as a team to make sure that there is fairness in that process. I mean, I think there are a lot of lessons out there to learn from. There's a number of school districts that have to go through these different types of transitions because of redistricting. I've had to do it because of having to close schools. I've had to do it in Houston when we had schools that we had to close because they were too small. And the doing the due diligence on making sure that there is a solid transition plan. And I have no problem with us being able to say, here's how we plan to look at what the transitions will look like. We can work on that for you all.
Okay. I do want to thank you for, all of the very important detailed information up front that helped us really look at this. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much discussion there's going to be. I still feel very much on the fence, but I do appreciate, that you will continue, and I know that, the transparency, but I'm just asking for some real creativity to help really look out for our juniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Ms. Corkadell, do you have any questions?
Yes, the question is actually to our president. Um, so, all of our redistricting to date, at least in my time, and I believe in times prior, used a ranked choice vote to ensure that you have a more representative result than under a plurality, and I would request that we consider that before placing motions and votes on the table, because I think the outcome will still be well defined, and it will ensure that the options that we pose to the public and receive feedback on all have representative votes. And I think that our system in prior worked out very well and resulted in a very fair and democratic process. And so I would just suggest that we consider proceeding in a ranked choice, as opposed to a single motion, and if it passes or if it doesn't, because these are very rare occasions that we do redistricting, and I think of all the votes out there, that this deserves the unique ranked choice option.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. That had not occurred to me. We may have to call a quick recess at some point to get the process right, just to make sure. I guess the question, and I'm just going to ask this, it's out of order, but since it's come up, I'm just going to ask, is there any dissent with regard to pursuing ranked choice? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's in the Robert's rules as a prime for these occasions, rare
And
occasions.
that's
so-
fine. I just wanted
So we
to
should
get
be
that.
able to get that information
Yeah,
for you.
I just wanted to get
quickly
out of the way that there was essentially
Yes.
consensus on moving forward that way.
Yes, and I do want to thank, I don't have questions because we did have a thorough process, and I want to thank all the staff, because actually the conversation started prior to Dr. Bedell on how to adjust and make changes to accommodate for redistricting. And I've got to say, I was very suspicious on not having a well-defined committee, because I had not seen the other opportunities as it related. I think the presentation of having a consultant come in definitely made that make sense, obviously, but at the time was not provided for. So I got to say that although no system is perfect, we created an environment that allows for full participation and considerations. And we know that these are very challenging decisions to be made case by case. And I will reserve any substantive comments when we have those items on the table.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Schulheim.
I don't have any questions, but I will have comments. Thanks.
Okay. Ms. Dent.
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn. No questions. Mr. Silkworth.
No questions. We'll have comments.
Okay. Then I would suggest we do a round of comments. I will take, well, I'm thinking, should we pause? I'm trying to think if it makes sense to pause before comments or after comments.
I believe Ms. Frank reserved opportunity for a question.
Oh.
I would suggest we skip the standards out of the way.
Yeah. Well, we've gone the first round, so Ms. Frank had her opportunity the first round. So, Ms. Frank, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, get the details of process ordered, and we will be back. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're back for the next episode. Um, um, so, pursuing what I heard prior to the break, it seems like there is interest in moving forward in what is essentially a caucus-like fashion, something that we have done for a couple of other things in the past, which essentially means indicating which option each member supports rather than voting on a motion up or down. I would first like to ensure that there is consensus to move forward in this way. Do I have any dissent anywhere? No. Okay. The next step is to ask if Ms. Howell if you could pull up the options that we are voting on. Do we have them, or do we have a way to read into the record? Mr. Mosier is coming. First, I want to get the process straight, and then we will go to comments. Yeah. It's open mic night, ladies and gentlemen. We're here. Right.
So, Dr. Tobin, I would be able to read the two options. I would not be able to put them on the screen because we would no longer be able to see Ms. Frank.
Yes, we understand
Okay,
that.
I'll
But
pull-
just for everybody's clarity, I want to read them into the record. And then we will go to comments, and then we will go to the caucus.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Corkadell. This was a test for Ms. Howell. She didn't know was coming. Do you have them? Good.
All right. So I have, which is printed on the yellow cover sheet. The superintendent presented a recommendation for redistricting to the Board of Education on July 12th, 2023. On August 23rd, 2023, the Board of Education voted to move to public hearing option 1, the superintendent's recommendation, and option 2 for phase 1. A public briefing was held on October 2nd, 2023, and the public hearing was held on October 16th, 2023. The board My apologies. Option 1 would include students who are entering grade 12 in school year 2024 to 2025 and will have the option to remain at the high school in which they are currently assigned. Option 2 would include students who are entering grades 11 and grades 12 in the school year 2024 and 2025 and will have the option to remain at the high school in which they are currently assigned.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Howell. So we will now proceed round robin to comments. And we begin with you, Ms. Frank.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Tobin. I have a brief statement that I prepared. In every redistricting scenario, there is no easy answer. There are several reasons why redistricting is required and several parameters that are immutable. Our partners who control the funding at the county and state level have made clear that our ability to continue to build and meet the growing population in our county will only be supported once seats are optimized. In this case, redistricting addresses several issues. One, a new school requiring a new district to be formed for students to begin to attend the new location. Two, overcrowding in some schools. And three, underpopulation in some schools. The difficulty lies in the need for students to move, and this becomes personal once students and families identify as part of their school community. There is no easy answer to that, and some students will have to move by the very definition of the exercise. I want to thank Dr. Bedell and his staff for working within the defined parameters and making a more cogent map. From a data standpoint, I believe that while no map can ever be perfect because of our geography, populations, and current building locations, especially the ones down Mountain Road, it does address the needs of our students and our system. Conditions for students should not include immense overcrowding if it can be avoided, and students should not have island school scenarios. The maps provided address those needs. Dr. Bedell, I commend you for your hard work and appreciate the time you took to listen to the community as you approached this monumental task. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis.
Thank you. Yeah, I largely share Ms. Frank's sentiments. This was done very thoughtfully. The end of the day, I never could have anticipated the level of really consensus on we've done our due diligence and this is the best outcome for our students. There was nothing contentious about the actual boundaries as we together, your team and the board, contemplated all of this. Very honest, I'm still really struggling with the issue for our juniors. The last time we opened a new school, the students of Crofton had the benefit of an ease in transition. The worst case scenario is if every single student were to choose to stay at their school. We can't assume that that's going to happen. So hopefully if option 2 does go through, it would not be, the numbers would not be the worst case scenario that were presented responsibly. Thank you. I guess that's all I have to comment. I'm still struggling, so I'm listening because I'm one of the early commenters. So I look forward to hearing my colleagues' thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell.
Thank you, President Tobin. I am truly very grateful for all the hard work and effort, and I know that my area and corridor will be coming up next. And I'm very confident, and I think that many in consider the southern portion, which is just the south half, more than the southern portion, is grateful. And I know that we'll take those lessons learned, tweak it out a little bit, and we may have to do adjustments unlike in this one. The fact that we have it narrowed down to effectively a very small area having a substantive effect that led us to 2 options, I think speaks droves to the thoroughness of the criteria. And although we as an education system have to sometimes recognize and work around the conditions of transportation, of roadways, of sidewalks, of shoulders, these are items we cannot control. They're not in our scope. We still have to proceed to deliver excellent education. I seriously contemplated option 2. Maybe the first member here actually stating where I'm landing here out of us, and I voted to bring it forth. When Crofton was redistricted, I was one of the folks in round 1 who voted to make extra accommodations for those who would be experiencing perhaps the greatest impact and bear the greatest brunt of that impact to the dynamic change. Ultimately, though, we were in a different position with transportation. We were in a different position with the amount of teachers that we have. We saw at the beginning of this meeting one of many reports that we receive. And although the numbers are stellar and outstanding in comparison to last year, if I go back just 5-7 years, I think we would have found a greater bandwidth to be able to reevaluate how we traditionally transition students. I think if Blueprint and the new funding formulas for facilities, the pre-K burdens, and the community school facility burdens were not as prevalent, I think we would be able to do a stage-in. But I also know that being responsible board members, we must also consider the fact that we're doing this to maximize our use of the facility. It never did sit easy with me that Crofton was only at half-mast for a period of time because the cost of the facility as a whole is still going through. These are accommodations that we are not going to have the flexibility within our budget to consider. And I cannot responsibly support an option that we cannot responsibly, equitably support. As a matter of fact, I would have been inclined to seriously think the legacy in general because of the inevitable inequities as it relates to access to that legacy option. And that is not a diss on Anne Arundel County Public Schools. That's us recognizing. That is our job to recognize that. And we will never be in that perfect place. Occasionally we get lucky and land there. But I think recognizing that allows us to pull together resources to make sure that that transition is as bearable as possible. And I will just lastly say that resiliency is part of life and is part of that education system. And we service almost 30% of our students at some point in time are dealing with transitions and transfers, whether it's from military or for other purposes. And we have a good support system in all of our schools that I am very proud of. And if we need a little bit of extra resources and we can find that spare change in the cushions to add to those supports as we identify them and work with those students, then I am definitely on board for that auxiliary and secondary support. And there are things I'm sure our community could do that don't involve our budget to make sure that the students receive the best possible transition. And I am confident that our teams will accomplish that because every team at each one of these schools has well demonstrated their commitment to their community and their students and always welcome new ones to include in the community. And I know this is very, very challenging, particularly for Ms. Frank, Mr. Silkworth, and Ms. Dent, as they are the most affected members. And I know that they love each and every single community, and each one are very important to them. And so I know these are hard decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Schallheim.
First, I want to thank Dr. Bedell and his staff and everyone who had a hand in making this process so much better than Crofton was, just from soup to nuts. The transparency, the interactive components online, all of the listening we did, that you all did. I'm really grateful for that. and it's day and night compared to the horror that was the Crofton redistricting for me. And I hope that we, you know, if we ever have to do this again, we replicate this model as best we can, both not just in the phase 2, of course, but in the years to come. I didn't have anything prepared. I'm just gonna riff. I really appreciated hearing from all the students who and their parents who stood before us and gave their testimony, or who wrote in with regard to the legacy question. I struggle with this a lot too. We are tasked to fully utilize, or to utilize buildings as best we can, to optimally utilize them, to create boundaries for new schools, to balance enrollment, to accommodate for under-enrolled schools at the end of the longest dead-end street in America. And so, you know, I want to fulfill my duty in that process. But I'm also quite torn with regard to the junior legacy question. I understand that, I mean, this is the worst part of our jobs for sure. And it's also the most emotional one, right? So like, it affects an individual student and individual students' plans and individual students' most important year, arguably, of their high school career, because it really sets forth the trajectory that they'll be pursuing after graduation. And so I'm very sensitive to all of that, but I have to balance that with the needs of the school system and at large, with what our staff can endure, with what our transportation system can handle, with equity. You know, I don't want to tee up something that a few lucky folks with their own transportation can avail themselves of, where others cannot. That doesn't sit well with me either. So, I mean, this is a rough one, you know. And I'll state my vote when we get there. I just wanted to acknowledge all of that to everyone in the audience and those listening at home. That this has been something that I've been squarely on the fence on for quite some time, and with good reason. You know, when students come out and tell me their thoughts and feelings, I listen. Every decision we make, I think I can arguably speak for everyone up here, is made with the students at the center of it, and what's in their best interests. But we're imperfect beings too, so you know, however we land, it's going to be okay. This process was way better than last time, and I'm truly grateful to Dr. Bedell and his staff for that. I think that's all I have right now. I think I was way too wordy. Anyway, thank you.
Ms. Dent.
So as always, Dr. Bedell and his staff did an excellent job of not only doing the initial round of the redistricting, but also keeping all of us informed about how the redistricting process was going. So the options here for me was not about the business decisions. The business decision is why we're here. This is why we're redistricting. So we realize that we have to redistrict. But as most of you all may or may not know, my children experience relocation. My oldest child relocated 4 times, 9th, 10th, 11th. And then I think she decided she wanted to get out of school in the 12th. And just not move again. But it impacted her. It impacted her tremendously. I did not realize how much it impacted her. My son decided to opt out not to go to 12th grade because he did not want to move. And so he took an exam and decided he'd go from junior to college. I will tell you that neither one of those scenarios worked out good for either one of my kids. So it is personal for me. I understand the business decision. I make business decisions every single day. But I will not tell you that I will sit here in good conscience and believe that we can't figure out a way to allow juniors to be grandfathered into this process or not consider the impact that it does have on the juniors. Notwithstanding any body from the county exec's office or anybody from our responsibility here as board members to be able to make this decision on redistricting. So it does keep me up at night. It's cut me up quite a bit about how and why we're making this decision when it comes to our juniors, but not our seniors. So I looked at the possibilities of what it would be and what it wouldn't be. And so I appreciate the staff for taking time out to send us both option 1 and option 2 and the impact of option 1 and option 2. But nothing in there saw the human side of it for me. And I will tell you that there is an impact to our students. There's a serious impact to our students. And there's also an impact to the families because there's not just a senior and junior going to be moving. Some whole families are moving and their children, their younger children are going one direction, their seniors are going one direction, their juniors are going one direction. So it's a lot to take in. And I'm not asking it to be easy, but I am saying that juniors are considered at that time to be ready, college ready. And we're even talking about in the blueprint for them to be college ready in the 9th grade. So I don't see how there can't be some leniency given, and not just from an option. And I agree with you, Ms. Schallheim, that there is a financial burden to every single thing that we're doing and every decision that we're making. But there's also a side of it that I believe that we can take a look at to see if that impact, that financial burden outweighs the impact of the human side of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So, as a junior last year, I just wanted to say a few words to the people who I know have reached out. I think that, regardless of what school you end up at, you will be successful. I can tell by your advocacy, your eagerness, that even if there are some trade-offs with clubs and maybe you have to join a few different new clubs or whatever it might be, I can tell that you all will be successful in life. And I completely understand. I mean, I'm going through the college application process myself. I know that junior year is very important, but in my mind, for the greater good of all of our students in phase 1 that would in the Northern District, we have to consider what's workable. And making sure choosing the option that doesn't result in schools still being over capacity. And as a wise board member told me, the heart and the brain want different things. In my heart, I really want to go with option 2 just because I know that it will benefit some students, juniors, rising juniors. But I know that the benefit of going with option 1 will be greater for all of our other students. So that's all.
Thank you. Mr. Silkworth.
Thank you, President Tobin. I would like to thank all of our stakeholders who came forward during this process to give us feedback. I would certainly also like to thank Dr. Bedell, his staff, and all of my colleagues. Miss Ellis, I just wanted to say to you, I hear you, and my heart is certainly with you. But I have to make a decision with my head and not my heart. I do agree with my colleagues that we have done our due diligence. I listened to Dr. Bedell and others of what makes sense for the greater good of our system. So since I've been on the board, I've been a member of the APF, the Adequate Public Facilities Group, and it became very evident during that time, and that's been going on for 2 or 3 years. It became very evident that redistricting was necessary. In my career, 49 years teaching, we never have had any comprehensive redistricting in Anne Arundel County. It's clear to me that it had to be comprehensive, and so tonight we're voting on phase 1. The facts are that we have schools well over 100% capacity, and other schools that are too far under their capacity. This not only impacts the education of so many of our students, it impacts the ability of our county officials to provide much needed resources outside of the realm of education. Affordable housing happens to be one of those resources. Therefore, redistricting is a must and it involves change. Change is often difficult. Wasn't that long ago that we changed our start times. That was a big change as well. Also, a necessary change for the well-being of our students, communities, and schools. That change in start times is now an integral part of our daily lives. And Ms. Corkadell, you're absolutely right. Resiliency is part of life. Redistricting requires some students to change from one school to another. There is no way around that. I do believe that our students and our families are very resilient. Tonight, we're voting on phase one. After a comprehensive process, we have two options in front of us. I have, and I know all of my colleagues have carefully studied and reviewed both options. I will tell you from my standpoint that one of the options will allow us to accomplish the goals that we need to accomplish. The other may not. We have great students. We have great teachers and staff. I have all the confidence in all of our schools to provide opportunities for all of our students to be able to realize their dreams, no matter which option happens to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. So that brings it to me. Redistricting is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, decision that any member of the Board of Education must make. It is hard because it impacts many, many students and families, and it involves changes which can upend people's lives in a number of ways. This decision on redistricting is particularly complex because it is the first such decision in anyone's memory that I have found that involves such an extensive portion of the county. The truth is, we find ourselves facing this complex decision because such decisions have not been taken by any other board. Therefore, it falls to this board to take on the issues that have accumulated over many, many years and have led to such an imbalance in our facilities. But here we are. As I have considered how I will vote on this, I have taken into account all the data that has been made available and all the testimony, written and in person, that I have read and heard. I want to thank all those who have weighed in on this discussion, especially our students. It is particularly important to hear your voices, and I am truly grateful that you have made the effort to let us know your views. I am also very much aware that there are students and families who feel very passionately that the superintendent's original proposal will not serve them well. But I am called, as a member of this board, to weigh those concerns with everything else that is before us. I want to join my colleagues in commending Dr. Bedell and the staff for the work they have done in approaching this tremendously difficult task. In determining how I will cast my vote, I have focused on what I believe to be best for the entire system. That is what Dr. Bedell asked us to do when he first made his recommendation. It is my view that in presenting us with a proposal based originally on the work of an impartial consultant, which Dr. Bedell and his staff then adjusted based on feedback from the community, the superintendent has presented us with a recommendation that does, in fact, do what is best for the entire system. And when we focus on what is best for the entire system, I believe we improve the outcomes for every single student in the long run. In addition, I have to consider what will benefit the greatest number of students and for the longest period. In this case, we are undergoing this redistricting to alleviate overcrowding in our schools and give our students the best experiences. Those are the goals I believe I am obligated to keep in mind, and they are the goals that Dr. Bedell's proposal meets, in my estimation. Finally, as others have mentioned, this redistricting has profound implications for the entire county. As we alleviate overcrowding in our schools, we will be opening up more areas of the county for the development of affordable housing, as Mr. Silkworth mentioned. That is a huge need in this county, and more affordable housing will have a profound impact on many of our students and their families. As we have often said, the schools cannot do everything alone. The more of our students who have stable, safe housing, the better their academic, social, and emotional outcomes will be, and the better off we will all be as a community. Therefore, for all those reasons, I will be supporting Dr. Bedell's original proposal, option 1. Okay, that ends comments. So at this time, we will go in roll call order, and board members will be asked to state which option you support. That will begin with Ms. Frank. Ms. Frank?
Option 2.
Thank you. Ms. Ellis?
Option 2.
Thank you. Ms. Corkadell?
Option 1.
Thank you. Ms. Schallheim?
Option 1.
Thank you. Ms. Dent?
Option 2.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn?
Option 1.
Thank you. Mr. Silkworth?
Option 1.
And I will vote for option 1. So Ms. Howell, what is the count?
5 members for option 1, 3 members for option 2. Option 1 passes.
Ms. Ellis?
I just want to bring up, because this did come up with the Crofton redistricting as well. A reminder for many students are in different circumstances. And Dr. Bedell, I know your team will handle it with compassion when parents may ask for an out of area exception. So I want to remind some families might be in some pretty difficult situations. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe that concludes this item. Thank you all for your patience while we worked out the process. So that takes us to section 8, review items. Item 8.01, monthly financial status report and FY 2024 revenue and expenditure projections. Are there any questions or wish to review? Okay. That now brings us to section 9, public comments on non-agenda items. So before I call speakers, let me read the following statement on public comment. This is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. The board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers, a combination of virtual and in-person, per agenda item, excluding personnel items, reports, and recognitions. The board will hear public comment from up to 10 total speakers on items not on the agenda, excluding any student-specific or personnel items near the end of the meeting. The link to register to comment before the board opened at 3 p.m. on the Friday prior to this meeting. Registration closed at noon on the Monday prior to this meeting. Speakers may sign up for no more than 2 agenda items, but only once on any individual agenda item. For any item with more than 10 registered speakers, the board will employ a lottery process to select the speakers. Registrants who secure a slot to speak were notified by email at the email address they provided when they registered. All speakers will be allotted 2 minutes and must address the specifics of the agenda item for which they sign up. No speaker substitutions will be permitted. If your name is called and you are not present, we will move on to the next speaker. For anyone who was not selected to speak at today's meeting, you may email your comments to the board office at boardoffice@aacps.org. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Anne Arundel County. We encourage everyone to utilize existing dispute resolution processes as appropriate. I remind everyone that any inappropriate personnel remarks or other behavior that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons using language that is threatening or promotes violence against members of this body or Anne Arundel County Public School employees are subject to legal penalties. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer session with speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistant. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone will be turned off. It could also be turned off if the speaker addresses specific student or employee matters or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. Thank you. So at this time, I will call up the following in-person speakers: Caroline Edwards, Tiffany Harris, and Beth Ramey. You may speak either from the podium or from the witness tables as you prefer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Caroline Edwards. I am a second-year teacher at Phoenix Academy. I've been with the county for 15 years in multiple capacities throughout the district. I just wanted to say that we had a great meeting this morning with Dr. Bedell's team from central office as well as our staff, where we addressed a number of concerns that we had to ensure that the students at Phoenix were, and the staff, have a safe environment to both be instructed as well as working. And we look forward to working with you. We do need your support. We need the support of everyone in the room to ensure that one of the highest needs of populations of students are actually having those needs met, whether it's through teachers or resources from the district. So thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. Tiffany Harris? No? Beth Ramey?
Good evening. My name is Beth Ramey. I am a citizen here in Annapolis. I also work with the Teachers Association of Anne Arundel County. Phoenix Academy is one of the buildings that I have the pleasure of working with. It is a very challenging school to work with. And I know that only in that, one, I see it in the dedication of staff who choose to show up at that building every day and could frankly work in a different building. As you all mentioned, there are vacancies in the county and in other counties across the state, but they show up every day because they really want to ensure that that environment is a place where kids can be successful. Caroline mentioned that means, right, academic rigor for students. That means supports for students who are in our day school, who are in alternative education type setting. And that really does require more than the staff or the building level administration can handle on their own. That takes resources and funding to address things like weapons in schools, the supports for more staff, right? Sometimes we look at staffing ratios as a pure numbers game, but the needs of students also indicate what type of support is needed. So bringing in outside organizations to potentially provide some more therapy for students. And then I know this isn't a comment on redistricting, but the populations at Phoenix and Mary Moss or some of our other institutions in the county need to be looked at to ensure that students can all be successful together. So I'm bringing that here on behalf of Katerina Borg, who is the chef instructor at Phoenix, but is in a curriculum writing class tonight. So I wanted to bring those comments, and we look forward to working together. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to virtual comment. We have, I believe, through our new process, Emily Kavanaugh. Are you there?
Hi, yes. I am Emily Kavanaugh. I'm in my 5th year. I also teach at Phoenix. I'm currently teaching middle school special ed social studies. And my main concern is, in order to maintain a safe environment at Phoenix, at all times, staff ratios of 2 adults in every self-contained class must be maintained when an adult staff member is absent, by providing substitutes, whether they be hired as substitutes through the school system or other AACPS personnel from central office. When I was hired by Marlene Clark, who was principal quite a while ago, she explained that each classroom should have 2 adults in the room, the teacher and the behavior tech, which is what they were known as at the time. This year they have a new title, but they help with classroom management. When a support person is absent, coverage is not currently provided for them. There is an NA next to their name on the out list. So to me, that is very concerning, and I'm hoping that they will consider providing coverage for those support people, because they are very valuable people to have in the classroom. Thank you for allowing me to speak virtually.
Thank you. Excuse me. That concludes our speakers for tonight, and therefore I am looking for
Move to adjourn.
Second.
And I believe I have consensus. Thank you, everyone. Good night.